We've seen that Matti Rimac, the actual CEO of Bugatti, has made a almost like response video to the last YouTube video I put out on the Bugatti Chiron.
Bugatti owners once believed they held the pinnacle of automotive exclusivity, machines worth millions, built in secrecy, and untouched by ordinary engineering. But when Mat Armstrong stepped into a wrecked Bugatti rebuild, what he uncovered began to challenge that belief. Hidden parts, shared systems, and unexpected realities started to surface, raising uncomfortable questions about what these million-dollar components truly are. Now panic is spreading among some owners, as the illusion of absolute exclusivity starts to crack. So, what exactly was exposed, and why is it shaking the hypercar world? This is the story. The Bugatti crash that revealed the expected. It begins with something that almost feels unreal. A Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport, one of only around 60 ever made in the world. This is not just a fast car or a luxury toy, it is a $3,500,000 engineering masterpiece, built to test the very edge of speed and control. Under its sculpted body sits a quad-turbo W16 engine that delivers around 1,500 horsepower, a level of power most cars can only dream of. This rare machine was owned by Florida-based influencer Alex Gonzalez, known online as FXLXG. Over time, the Bugatti became more than just a vehicle. It turned into a social media symbol, constantly admired and shared by thousands. But with that attention came an unspoken danger. When something this rare is always in the spotlight, even a small mistake can become a global story. Everything changed in a moment that felt completely normal. There was no race, no risky driving, just calm, everyday traffic moving slowly. Then things shifted suddenly. The cars ahead slowed down too fast, space disappeared, and a chain reaction started behind them. In that split second, the Bugatti had nowhere to go and was hit hard from the front, turning an ordinary drive into a costly crash. The crash didn't look serious at first glance, but for a hypercar like this, even a small impact can cause huge damage. Though it was only part of a chain reaction and hit from behind, the results were still brutal. The carbon fiber body cracked. The suspension was badly destroyed. The headlights were smashed, and the airbags went off. What was once a flawless symbol of perfection now sat damaged, looking like it might never be the same again. A Bugatti expert was called in to inspect the damage, but the verdict was clear and disappointing. Repairing the car would cost more than its actual value, even for a machine this rare and expensive. The numbers simply did not add up, making restoration impractical. In the end, the decision was made to write it off completely. The once prized hypercar was then sent to auction, joining other luxury supercars that were deemed too costly to repair after serious crashes. But what happened next surprised many. Instead of letting go, Gonzalez made a bold and unusual decision. He bought the wreck back for less than $2 million. For most people, it sounded like a bad deal, paying millions for a damaged shell of a hypercar. But for him, it became something else entirely. Not just a financial risk, but the beginning of a project that most would never even consider attempting. A rare Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport was damaged in an accident and written off by Bugatti experts. Yet, the owner refused to let it go. But what was he planning after the manufacturer had already declared it beyond repair? Could anyone still attempt to rebuild it? If there is, what are the likely challenges he might face? Let's find out. A hopeless wreck and a builder. That is when Mat Armstrong entered the story. He is a YouTuber known for rebuilding crashed performance cars and giving them a second life. But this time, the challenge was far beyond anything he had faced before. This was not just any damaged supercar, it was a Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport. A machine so advanced it feels more like a spaceship on wheels than a road car. From its carbon fiber body to its complex cooling system and powerful quad-turbo engine, everything about it was built for extreme performance and precision. It soon became obvious this was far from a simple repair. The damage went much deeper than scratched panels or broken parts that could be easily swapped. It had reached the very core of the Bugatti itself. In a car like this, the carbon fiber monocoque isn't just a frame, it is the backbone that holds everything together. When that structure is damaged, the entire car loses its strength and balance. At that point, the machine is no longer just broken, but fundamentally compromised. The real issue was the monocoque, the car's core structure. When it is damaged, repairs are no longer simple fixes. It is the heart of the hypercar, built with extreme care and accuracy. Every part depends on it being perfectly strong and aligned, because even the smallest flaw can affect the whole car's performance and safety. Most experts agreed on the same thing. The car was likely beyond saving. In the hypercar world, Bugatti follows a very strict repair system. Their vehicles are only fixed in approved factories by trained specialists using exact methods and tools. Outside this controlled setup, a rebuild like this is not just difficult, but seen as nearly impossible and even unsafe because of the extreme precision these machines require. On paper, the project looked impossible, costly, complex, and full of risks with no clear answers. Most people would have quit immediately, seeing no reason to continue such a difficult and uncertain challenge. But Mat Armstrong did the opposite. Instead of giving up at the sight of the damage, he began the slow and careful process of taking the car apart. Piece by piece, he stripped it down, exposing the hidden damage underneath. Each removed panel revealed just how serious the impact had been, and how much work would be needed to even attempt a comeback. He kept going despite everything. No certainty, no promise of success, and no easy path ahead. It wasn't about comfort or confidence, but about taking on a challenge so difficult that most people wouldn't even dare to begin, let alone see it through. Armstrong is attempting to repair a car that the manufacturers have deemed unrepairable. But will he be given the necessary support by the manufacturer? Or will he instead be cautioned against attempting it? If he is not supported, what options will he be left with to repair the car? Let's uncover the astonishing details. The hypercar rebuild, lost factory support. The biggest challenge was not just what was broken, it was what they were no longer allowed to access. Bugatti stepped away from the project. The company refused to support the rebuild and would not supply official parts. In the world of hypercars, that is a major turning point. Without factory support, even the simplest repair becomes complicated. And in this case, nothing about the car was simple. Unlike normal cars, hypercars like the Bugatti Chiron are tied to a strict manufacturer system. Every major part is connected to the vehicle's VIN number, which controls everything from part orders to servicing. It is a tightly controlled network designed to protect quality and safety. But here, that system became a locked door instead of a helping hand. Once the car was marked internally as restricted, official support stopped almost completely. There were no factory repair guides, no authorized parts ordering, and no direct technical assistance. It was as if the car had been cut off from the system that once kept it alive. To make matters even harder, voices from within the hypercar world began to raise doubts. Experts like Mat Armstrong publicly questioned whether a car like this could ever be rebuilt properly outside Bugatti's controlled factories in France. The concern was not just about putting parts back together, it was about precision. At this level, even the smallest misalignment can create serious risks when the car is pushed to extreme speeds. From Bugatti's perspective, this caution made perfect sense. These cars are built with extreme accuracy, and every bolt, panel, and sensor is part of a carefully engineered system. One mistake in rebuilding could change how the entire car behaves on the road. Instead of seeing the restrictions as a dead end, Mat Armstrong and his team treated them as a new kind of challenge. With no access to Bugatti's official system, they didn't stop or step back. They decided to push forward anyway, building their own solutions, tools, and methods to keep the project alive and moving. It wasn't an easy choice. They had to move beyond normal rules and face the unknown without factory support or clear instructions. Still, instead of backing down, they took the risk, trusted their skills, and chose to push forward and find their own way through. In their eyes, the project was no longer just about repairing a crashed hypercar. It had turned into something bigger, a test of whether determination, skill, and persistence could push past the limits set by one of the most advanced car manufacturers in the world. When Bugatti learned that Armstrong was planning to repair a car they had certified as unrepairable, he was publicly warned about the dangers of going against the manufacturer's protocols. Yet, he remained determined to fix it. But how will he approach the repair? And will he eventually get the car working? Now, let's dive into Armstrong's raw engineering and pure determination. Inside the Miami workshop. In a workshop in Miami, far away from Bugatti's controlled factories, the rebuild turned into something much bigger than a normal repair. There were no official tools, no factory parts, and no direct guidance from the manufacturer. What started as a damaged hypercar had now become a full engineering reconstruction project. Instead of simply swapping broken parts, the team had to rethink the entire car from the ground up. Every damaged piece was carefully scanned in great detail and converted into precise 3D digital models. These models were then used with CNC machines to produce replacement parts, shaped with extreme accuracy to match the original design as closely as possible. At one stage, the team had to open the car in a way rarely seen outside a factory. The chassis was carefully split apart to reach hidden internal areas that are usually sealed for life. It was a risky and very delicate move, but there was no other choice if they wanted to truly see and understand the full extent of the hidden damage inside. From there, every system needed attention. Nothing could be left untouched or assumed to still work properly. The gearbox mounts had to be carefully realigned so power could transfer smoothly. The cooling system was completely rebuilt to make sure the engine would not overheat under pressure. The electrical system also had to be reprogrammed so that all the control units could communicate correctly again, as if the car were learning how to function all over. Some parts could not be found anywhere, so the team had to build them from scratch or modify other pieces to fit. The aim was not just to swap broken parts, but to bring the car back to full working order. Even if it meant changing how things were originally designed, the focus stayed on making the whole system work again as one complete, smooth machine. The most critical and tense moment came when the carbon fiber monocoque had to be joined back together. This part is the core structure of the car, and even the smallest mistake, just a millimeter off, could affect how the vehicle behaves at high speed. It required slow, careful alignment, repeated measurements, and constant checking before anything was secured in place. When it finally came together, the change was noticeable. The car no longer looked like a scattered wreck or a broken shell. It began to feel like a machine again, one step at a time, slowly returning to life through patience. precision, and persistence. Despite the challenges the repair posed to Armstrong, he subjected the damaged car to a full engineering reconstruction and began making remarkable progress. But what did he uncover during the process? Could there be something that Bugatti's rigid approach to repairs was keeping out of sight? And did the car finally return to proper working condition? Let's uncover the shocking details. The teardown shock. As the rebuild moved forward, the team came across something they did not expect during the teardown. Hidden inside the Bugatti were parts with familiar Volkswagen Group-style codes, the same system used across brands like Audi, Porsche, and Lamborghini. At first glance, it was surprising to see such markings in a car worth millions. One discovery that drew even more attention was the airbag control module. It looked almost identical to units found in much cheaper cars like the Audi A3 or Volkswagen Golf. To make things even more interesting, similar versions of that same part were reportedly available online for just a few $100s through unofficial sources. This raised a big question in people's minds. How could a multi-million-dollar Bugatti contain components that appear in everyday, mass-market cars? The reality, however, is more complicated than it first seems. In the modern car industry, even the most advanced hypercars often rely on shared suppliers for certain systems like electronics, sensors, electronic control units, and safety modules. This is not unusual. The real difference is not always in the part itself, but in how it is sourced, certified, branded, and controlled within a strict supply chain. That system is also what drives the extreme cost of owning a Bugatti. Even basic items like headlights, tires, or scheduled servicing can reach tens of thousands of dollars, not just because of the parts, but because of rarity, approval rules, and highly specialized labor required to handle them. As the rebuild went on, a surprising truth came to light. Some of the damage that first looked serious was not as bad as it seemed. Once the car was fully taken apart, many issues turned out to be simple faults, like broken wires, faulty sensors, or blown fuses. These hidden problems only showed up after a careful, detailed inspection of every part. One of the most important milestones arrived when the engine finally roared back to life. After months of uncertainty, the Bugatti was able to move under its own power once again. It was far more than just a successful startup. It was proof that countless rebuilt systems were working together. The engine, electronics, drivetrain, and structure had all come together, transforming a once-destroyed hypercar back into a functioning machine. Although it was not rebuilt according to Bugatti's official methods or factory standards, the hypercar was running again. What seemed impossible had become reality through determination and engineering skill. Yet its revival left behind a fascinating question. When manufacturers shut the door on support, just how far can independent builders push the limits of innovation? Beyond uncovering facts that might have remained unknown about the components used in Bugatti's highly regarded sports cars, what impact will Armstrong's discoveries have on those following his journey? Could his success change the way people view the strict repair protocols imposed by hypercar manufacturers? Now, let's dive into what happened after the car's revival. Beyond the repair. Even after the Bugatti Chiron Sport was running again, the journey was far from over. What seemed like the end of a remarkable rebuild quickly became the beginning of a much bigger story. The project had already gone beyond repairing a crashed hypercar. It had evolved into a bold challenge that questioned what was possible when determination, engineering skill, and persistence met a problem that most experts believed could never be solved. The attention began to shift. It was no longer only about whether the Bugatti could be repaired. Instead, people started thinking about what the entire rebuild actually meant. To many observers, this project stopped being just a technical challenge and became a reflection of modern hypercar ownership itself, where extreme prices, tight manufacturer control, and independent builders all exist in the same space, often clashing in public view. Rather than staying a private workshop job, the car turned into a public symbol. It showed how the meaning of cars like this has changed in today's world. Now, a supercar's story does not live only in factories or garages. It also lives online. Every step, crash, repair, setback, and progress can be shared, watched, and discussed by millions of people in real time. In that sense, the rebuild itself became just as important as the original creation of the car. As the project progressed, the discussion shifted beyond damaged parts and complex repairs. A bigger question began to emerge. Who truly has the authority to bring a machine of this caliber back to life? Should that responsibility belong only to the manufacturer, with its strict rules and factory-controlled systems? Or can talented independent builders prove they are capable of achieving the same result? What started as a rebuild had become a debate about expertise, control, and trust. The rebuild sparked strong reactions across the automotive world. To some, it was an inspiring example of how skill, creativity, and determination can overcome seemingly impossible obstacles without factory support. To others, it raised uncomfortable questions, challenging the strict systems manufacturers use to control how rare hypercars are repaired, maintained, and protected long after they leave the production line. By the time the car was running again, there was no final ending to the discussion. If anything, it only made the debate stronger. The Bugatti was no longer just a rare and expensive machine that had been repaired after a crash. It had turned into something larger, a talking point about value, authority, innovation, and the changing culture of modern cars. In the end, this was about far more than repairing a crashed hypercar. It became a powerful story of determination, innovation, and refusing to accept limits. The rebuilt Bugatti proved that sometimes a machine can represent something greater than engineering. It can symbolize ambition, persistence, and the drive to achieve the seemingly impossible. So, what do you think about Armstrong's revelations? Could there be more that hypercar manufacturers are hiding from the public? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe